Good morning, good evening, and good day to our listeners and viewers on our weekly Straight Talk program. Let me welcome you once again to another one of our programs, which we believe has been of great interest to you and others who may have shared our programs on YouTube. Today, we will talk about a very interesting topic which I've entitled What the Elections Must Mean to You. I repeat, what must the elections mean to you? We chose this topic because we are now in the eye of the storm, so to speak. It is a mere 29 days away from the March the 2nd. And with, elections in the air comes great expectations. And the greatest expectation that the overwhelming majority of people in Guyana are hoping for and expecting, so to speak, is a change of government. After more than 4 years of the current administration, people want to see the back of this administration. And from what I gather in moving around the country, people seem to want the previous administration, that is, the PPPC, back in office. So, my friends, there are great expectations as we stand a mere 29 days away from the elections. Now, we come back to the topic, what must you expect from these elections? Many, I must confess, have already made up their minds who they will vote for and who they will not vote for. And this is quite understandable in a country where politics is very much polarized. And this polarization of the political atmosphere, and especially the electoral atmosphere in Guyana, is nothing unusual. What is unusual this time around is, notwithstanding the polarization, people want to see movement of one section of the voting population over to another. And that section of the population which they would like to see movement from is movement from the APNU AFC over to the People's Progressive Party Civic. But it is more than that. People want to see movement of those who are, so to speak, sitting on the fence, and those who have not made up their minds as yet. These are members of the electorate that are called the undecided. Now, this undecided constituency is a very critical constituency. And these are the people that all the political parties are working very hard to influence. It would seem to me that the base of the two major political parties are consolidated. In other words, they have worked very hard to maintain and even to consolidate their base. Because it is from that base they will then reach out to the undecided and other, what you could describe as non-traditional voters. In other words, the outreach or the emphasis on the outreach to the undecided and the non-traditional voters is a it's going to be very, very hotly contested. We therefore expect to see lots of changes in these elections, and we expect those changes to bring about a change in the current administration. Now, elections must mean the following. It must mean putting trust in democracy first and foremost. Everyone wants to live in a democracy. No one, as far as I could recall, or as far as I know, in Guyana, and even outside of Guyana, wants to live in a dictatorship. And so the best bet for the overwhelming majority of Guyanese is to live in a democracy. Living in a democracy means more freedoms and means the exercise of the fundamental rights and freedoms of all Guyanese. We do not want total control in any way whatsoever in our country. That could very well lead to authoritarianism. Total control can lead to authoritarianism and could lead to dictatorship. In fact, there are many who are already feeling very uncomfortable with the current prevailing circumstances because they recognize that their democratic rights are gradually being taken away from them or trampled upon and therefore this is a tremendous amount of discomfort for many Guyanese. At a recent public rally somewhere in Guyana, one of the uppermost leaders of the coalition said that they want control of the parliament, they want control of the executive, they want control of the RDCs, that is the Regional Democratic Councils, they want control of the municipalities, and they want control of the NDCs. Now, my friends, any political party that gains absolute and total control in a country of its parliament, of its executive, of its the municipalities, of the RDCs, and of the NDCs, not to mention the executive and possibly the judiciary. We have to ask ourselves, but why would a single political party in a democracy want to have total and absolute control of the major tenets of a parliamentary democracy? Why? Precisely because the dictatorial tendencies and the trust toward authoritarianism is becoming more and more strong. And this is precisely one of the elements that we have to vote against at these coming elections. So the number one issue when it comes to what the election must mean to you is that we must work hard and we must vote for the maintenance of our democracy. In this respect, we have in Guyana what is called a parliamentary democracy. And the people must vote and exercise their vote as they see fit. In other words, the political parties must run on their track records. And the people themselves know from practice who and which political party have touched their lives in every sphere of human endeavor. The second point I'd like to raise in respect to our expectations and what the election must mean to you is the question of protecting of the and guaranteeing of your fundamental rights. By fundamental rights, we speak about freedoms and rights. These are, for example, the freedom of expression, freedom from fear, freedom of association, and freedom from hunger. These are the basic fundamental rights and freedoms that every Guyanese expect to continue enjoying in the next elections, the coming elections. Let's go through them one by one. The first one is freedom of expression. Freedom of expression means freedom of speech. And while freedom of speech means the right to exercise your views, it does not mean that you must run into a cinema and shout, "Fire, fire," or cause alarm and confusion in the society. So that freedom of expression is a fundamental right and freedom of all Guyanese. Freedom from fear. This is a very critical issue and very important as well. No one wants to live in an atmosphere in a society that is characterized by fear. And especially around this time, when elections are in the air, and some people I should say, are seeking to drive fear among the people, among sections of the population. This must not be allowed to foster, and this must not be allowed to grow. And therefore, freedom from fear is a very critical freedom for Guyanese to not be able to experience. Freedom of association is another very important freedom. In other words, every single Guyanese, man, woman, and I would say even our youths, must have the right to associate with whom they wish to be associated. Anyone who wishes to be associated with any political party must have the freedom to do so. They must not be intimidated. They must not be terrorized, nor must they be sanctioned in any way whatsoever. So the freedom of association with either a political party, a trade union, a religious organization, or any non-governmental organization is a freedom we must cherish and protect. Freedom from hunger is another important freedom which Guyanese must enjoy. In Guyana today, we have over 70,000 sugar workers and their families and children experiencing hunger. And we've heard people say, oh, where is the hunger? There's no hunger in Guyana. But the question is, have they traveled through the length and breadth of Guyana and have seen the extreme manifestations of poverty that affects almost every section of the population? Not only one section, but they're almost every section of the population. There are pockets of poverty in this country where parents are not in a position economically, financially, and otherwise to provide bread or one meal a day on the table for their children. And so freedom from hunger is an extremely important freedom which we must enjoy in our own country. It is to be expected. And in fact, most of the political parties, the two major ones for that matter, have spoken about utilization of the revenues from oil to address issues of poverty, hunger, and want. So we reflect as we go to the polls on these freedoms and rights which we all wish to enjoy from the cradle to the grave. This is another one of our expectations and what we must get out of the elections that is forthcoming. Thirdly, the other freedom that we must enjoy is the question of the right to elect a government of our choice, or the right to elect a government of your choice. Free and fair elections. Let me say that there's a fundamental issue that we must all bear in mind as we go to elections, and that is sovereignty belongs to the people. What does that mean? By saying that sovereignty belongs to the people, it simply means that the people are the ones who go to the polls and determine which political party they would wish to administer the affairs of the country over the next 5 years. So they have the sovereign right in that respect. That sovereign right is vested in the people. That is, to exercise the franchise to determine which political party would administer the affairs of Guyana over the next 5 years. They give what is described as a mandate to that party. that party goes to the polls with promises. That party goes to the polls with a manifesto. And the people expect that when they elect that party, that they will fulfill the promises based on that manifesto. And in that respect, they will then, that is to say, the political party that holds the reins of power will determine the direction of the country. And all of that means that sovereignty belongs to the people. The people have the sovereign right to elect a government of their choice, and in so doing, that government runs the affairs of the country. Now, when the people elect a political party, and that political party does not fulfill the promises that they made based on their manifesto, or when they see that political party reneging or disappointing them in respect to what their expectations were, then naturally the people would take away that sovereign right from that political party, or would take away that mandate from that political party, and would then turn to another alternative party to give them their support because they expect something different in their lives. And that is what the election must mean for each and every one of us. So the direction in which the country would go will depend on who you elect to put in the government. And if you elect a party, put that party into the government, and that party ends up disappointing you, then obviously when the next time comes around, when election comes around once again, you now have to take that mandate away from them and give it to another political party which you believe and which you have given your trust in believing, knowing that they will do much better. The records must stand for themselves. Each political party has a track record. Some have a failed track record, some have a successful track record. We do not vote for failed track records. We vote for successful track records. One of the fundamental issues in respect to sovereignty belonging to the people is the question of free and fair elections. And that is the issue that is in the air right now. It is being debated right across the country. And this is quite understandable. But what does free and fair elections mean? Let us take the question of free, because there are two dimensions to this concept. Free being one, and fair being the other. Elections, we have just dealt with that. So let us take the element of free elections or fair elections. Fair elections means no cheating. The voters list must be clean, no stealing of votes, and no rigging of elections. There must be no obstacles in the path of individuals when they go to vote. There must be no obstacles, either human or technological. In other words, fair and free elections means that the fairness must manifest itself in a clean and credible voters list, no cheating at the polling stations or even after or during the counting of the votes, no stealing of votes, and no rigging of the electoral process to give advantage to one party or the other. The fairness means that everything, there must be no obstacle whatsoever in the path of a voter when they go to a polling station, when they line up to vote, when they enter the polling station, when they register their right to vote with their ID card, when they go to put their ballot in the ballot box, and even when they leave the polling station. There must be no obstacles or no question of fairness in respect to casting of a vote. We also say that elections must be free from fear, F-E-A-R. In other words, there must be no intimidation. The voters, the electorate who go out to public meetings and rallies must not be intimidated. Fear must not be driven in them by the speakers. There must be no terrorizing of voters. We see some manifestations of this already creeping up, and we must make sure that the police take action against anyone who is intimidating, who is threatening, and who is terrorizing voters during the campaign, on elections day, and even after. So the question of free and fair and free from fear, they're all three critical elements that goes into the holding of free and fair elections in our country. Free and fair, free from fear, is what most Guyanese are looking forward to in respect of the elections. Our country, regrettably, has a history of violence, social and political upheaval, either before or after elections. Fortunately, we have seen over the years a reduction in these kinds of practices. It is the hope that in the forthcoming elections that will not happen. And many Guyanese are hoping and praying and working hard, in fact, to ensure that should there be a change of government, there will not be a repetition of any form of violence, intimidation, victimization, or anything of the sort to create political and social and even economic turmoil in our country. Elections for us must mean a better life today, tomorrow, and forever. Now, you know, in the English language, there's what is called good, better, and best. Over the past 4 years, you have been promised a good life, but this good life has not materialized. It has been mere rhetoric. It has been based on promises which have not been fulfilled. And it has meant poverty and hurt for many in the Guyana. People want not a good life anymore, they want a better life, because the good life for them has not materialized. So with a change of government, people are talking about a better life for them today, tomorrow, and forever. That means that that can only come when there's a change in government. Every man, woman, and child must have a better life today, tomorrow, and forever. We must remember the 4 components of a free and fair elections. I had mentioned this some time ago, but I believe it is important for me, just for the benefit of listeners and viewers, to repeat them once again. The 4 components of a free and fair elections are as follows. Number 1, the voters, the electorate, the people who exercise the franchise, the people who have won the right to elect a government of their choice, and the people who have won many years before what is called universal adult suffrage. So they are number 1, the people, the voters. The second is the GECOM, the Guyana Elections Commission, that has the mandate to conduct the elections in the country. This organization or this institution is a constitutional body that is vested with that authority. People expect GECOM to hold the elections that is free and fair and that is free from fear. People expect that GECOM, and that must have a machinery that is fair and impartial. GECOM must not be seen to be leaning in favor of one political party or the other. It must be impartial, it must be neutral when it comes to conducting the elections. So that is the second component of having a free and fair elections. The third component of having a free and fair elections has to do with the international community. The international community, without interfering in Guyana's internal affairs, has always been supportive of the electoral process in Guyana. They spend millions of dollars in all forms in order to ensure that GCOM get its act right. They spend a lot of money also on the question of voter education. And so the donor community, which is fundamentally speaking part of the international community, who are keeping a watchful eye on the electoral process in Guyana, is what could be considered to be the third component of holding free and fair elections in Guyana. The fourth and final component of holding a free and fair elections in our country is the foreign elections observers. The elections observers come from all countries, from CARICOM, from the European Union, from the Organization of American States, from the United Nations, from the Carter Center, from the Commonwealth, and from many other independent organizations that pay an interest in the electoral process in these countries like Guyana. And so the presence of foreign observers or independent foreign observers, including local observers, because we've had the practice from 1992 where we have encouraged local observers by means of the private sector, the business community, the trade unions, religious organizations, and other non-governmental organizations. So with this plethora of electoral observers, both foreign and national, spread across the country, observing the electoral process, even before elections day. Because I have maintained the point that if any skullduggery is to take place for an election, it does not necessarily have to happen on the day of election. It begins long before elections day. And that is manifested in the question of the compilation of the voters list. And that is why the voters list is so critical for free and fair elections. And so, my friends, those are the four components of a free and fair elections in Guyana. So as we get closer to the elections, things will heat up. It will not only heat up in the city, it will heat up in many parts of the country. And that is to be expected. What must happen, however, is that as the temperature increases, or as the political climate gets hotter and probably warmer, it is important for us to maintain focus. We must focus on the issues, focus on the political platform, the economic programs, the social programs, focus on the track record of the political parties. So, and in doing and maintaining that focus, we will not be distracted by other things that happen outside of the process. Let us shun division, let us shun racism, let us shun all efforts at dividing and polarizing our people, and let us march together as one people towards one nation and one destiny, which is to see a prosperous Guyana, a Guyana in which every man, woman, and child would be prosperous, would prosper, and would get the benefits of all that is due to them. Thank you and goodbye.